In every race you run, whether it is a sprint or a marathon, there are the final seconds, or what we call the final countdown. There's no way around it. And so many times we worry about the first hole on the golf course. We worry about what's happening at the 100 meters in a 400-meter race. We worry about halftime at football. But it really is what happens when the last second ticks off the clock. What does your retirement need to look like when that last second clicks? Join us on Consider This Program today. Well, good morning and welcome to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Grant Sullivan.
We are happy to have you all along. Hey, there are lots of things you can be doing. We only have so many seconds. One point in time in my life, Grant, I had memorized the number of seconds we had in a day, weeks, etc. I got tired of wasting my time memorizing things because you lost seconds counting seconds.
Sure.
Right? No, anyhow. That's not why I quit. It's one of those things that has just passed me. What has not passed me is what happens to people when you look at your financial perspective, right? And Grant and I are going to differ on this. You watch. I'm going to set him up. He's going to get in a trap. When you talk to people about the final second of their retirement, what does that look like?
So, Joe, I think, let's see if I can avoid the bear trap here. For many families that we communicate with that come into the office, that looks like for them the days they turn in the keys to work. For us, that's the day they say goodbye to their family and move on.
Ooh, young Jedi. Whoa. You come far. Yes, that is truly it. So when Grant was at Purdue, and there's 5 wonderful people on our team at the Financial Enhancement Group that came through that senior year program at Purdue, the capstone course of financial planning. I was blessed enough to be able to teach it for 7 years, 14 semesters, 5 lucky stars that wound up, being part of our team, Grant being one of them. But when I was there, they had a textbook, and I looked at this textbook and I started reading it. It was $240 for the textbook. And you have to understand, and because this is often lost, we had no money. I qualified for free lunch every day of school of my entire life. We never took it. That's a whole nother story. But, there were just not a lot of resources. And when I looked at the books that I had at university time that I was forced to buy, that I had in student debt, that it never got open because the professors never had you open them, and yet I still had the bill, the debt, and everything else. Over my dead body was I going to make a grant, go spend $240 for a book I was not about to teach a bit out of. And so I kind of talked Purdue into allowing me to build my own curriculum. They sheepishly said yes because they knew there was no way on God's green earth that the CFP board would sign off on letting me create my own curriculum. What they didn't know is that I got the CFP board to sign off on my curriculum. Now Purdue was in a corner. They had to agree. I created my own curriculum, and I trademarked it because that's the entrepreneurial spirit, and that's in terms of what we do. And so what Grant and I will do is walk through for you when we talk about that marathon. It's not a sprint. It is your financial journey. What we're going to walk through is that trademarked program of how that works and why it works and why retirement is far more than just income, far more than just investments. But let's start there. So Grant, let's start with the first part of the family focus process. What is a financial vision?
The financial vision, Joe, is what holds the whole thing together. And that is when we look at our families and ask, what do you want this to encompass? It's the spirit of why they've saved money, what they're going to do with it. So for a lot of our families, it looks like I want to be a good steward of my wealth so I can enjoy my family and enjoy my lifestyle today while still being generous with my resources. And that around that vision is what we build. And again, the next part of the 5 critical elements.
So for those of you that are Star Trekkies, I call it the prime directive. This is what it's all about. And, it does exactly what Grant said, but it also gives you the direction and us the direction of how to best treat your resources. It also makes sure that we're staying on the same page. Any of you who've listened to the show for a long time No, one of my biggest concerns is that people begin to fade away. That's when you're no longer making the decisions today that you would have made 20 years ago. This gives me something to be able to put down in front of me that says, this is what I intended to be true. It's in my own words. And so my kids have the ability to come back and go, Dad, you said this, and that's not what's on there anymore. So that's that. So Grant mentioned the 5 critical elements. There are 5 areas, and here's what we know to be true. James Clear put this the best I know of in the Atomic Habits. He says, success is never dependent upon one thing, but failure can be. These are the 5 areas where I have found failures that have totally disrupted an otherwise worthwhile plan. And we start with your life after work. So tell me what that is, Grant.
Joe, that's simple. It is when you step away from employment. We do not call it retirement because, as Joe likes to say and eloquently says, we don't turn away or turn in the keys to work and walk away just to watch grass grow. So it's your life after work. It is what will you be doing now that you're no longer engaged in 8 to 5?
And how do we make sure that those things are met, right? And inside of that, you have the retirement practice year, the retirement budget. You have the retirement V for victory. You have the Social Security decision. So there's a bunch of subsets of that, but your life after work is the first one. You get it wrong. It doesn't matter how much money you saved. It doesn't matter what the clock said at halftime, what you had at age 45 when the kids left. I don't care when you became a millionaire. I don't care what happened in the crash in 1987. What happens now is based on your life after work and where you are. The second is the annual tax plan.
And that one, Joe, is really what are we doing today? So tax planning versus what's going on that 1040 come April.
Of the following year.
Of the following year. So that's tax reporting.
Yeah, I like to call it a one-hit wonder. That's your tax return. We are so preoccupied over our investment statements because we get them so regularly. We get lagging information. That means it's already occurred. We try to make future decisions based on lagging information, which is kind of not a really good course of action, frankly. But that's what we do. And we get it so often that we think we can make meaningful decisions. Yet with tax returns, people look at them, they complain, have a drink or two, throw them in the drawer, repeat, and do the same thing again the following year. Tax planning is about what we're going to do this year proactively. That's where that collaboration comes into play. So think about being in a 400-meter relay, right? We're handing the baton off to the CPA after we have ran our lap. But every single year you have to run that lap. Unlike an investment return, it doesn't matter if the market goes down when it goes back up, as long as it goes back up, right? Doesn't matter if it happens this year or next year. Doesn't matter if it happens this month or next month. Whatever happens December 31st for the 365 days before it or 364, right, is what's going on in your return. It's a one-hit wonder. Mm-hmm. So we've had your life after work, after your financial vision, your life after work, the annual tax plan. What's next, Grant?
The investment playbook.
Tell me about that.
And it's strategically placed as third because many of our families are trained, and we know this from doing this for so long, that they always want to talk about return, return, return. We don't. We talk about the investment strategy. So what is the playbook we're bringing to the table for those your life after work years? Because like you said in the very beginning, it's nice holding a gold medal, but are you holding the right gold medal?
Yeah, very, very good. Keeping with our Olympic theme, I like it. Hey, we don't talk a lot about the market on this show, or the economy for that matter. If you want to know more, we do a free thing every week. It's called the Market Carver. I've been doing it every week. We've missed 1 week since 2007. It's called the Market Carver. It comes out at 11:04 every Eastern Standard Thursday, right to your inbox. Just go to yourlifeafterwork.com, get signed up for it. You will get it. You will get the newspaper article that we write every week for the Anderson Herald. And every now and then, you'll even get an Elements in Focus from yours truly, Mr. Grant Sullivan, who's here with us today. He and the Director of Financial Planning, Aaron Rayum, do that, and that will come to your inbox. But that's the best way to keep up to date with what's going on with our investment playbook. Again, if you want to do it on your own, that's your business. If you're looking for a fiduciary, that is our business. yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for a Next Steps meeting. So those are the first 3, Your Life After Work, the annual tax plan, the investment playbook. What's next?
Risk management and life issues.
Life happens.
Life happens. Defense, baby.
Good, bad, and ugly. So what do we do about that?
We take a look at what defensive strategy needs to be in place. Just as you have an offensive strategy, aka your investment playbook, you need to have a defensive strategy. So what happens when life happens? What are the things we have in place to protect the family, the income, etc.?
So this is why I call it the life happens as opposed to the risk management and the other part, because to me it is the good, bad, and ugly of life. What Grant just talked about is an incredibly important part of that area of things. Of the risk management are required to be able to be there. We are not in the business of selling property and casualty insurance or umbrella policies or Medicare subs. That's not what we do. We manage money and we act as fiduciaries. But we do help people build and develop these plans. It is a critical part of your planning. But what's going to happen in your life, there's going to be things that only happen to you maybe once or twice or maybe even never at all. But we deal with more than once a month on average, whether that's a loss of a child, putting an aging parent in a facility, marrying off a child, whether it's dealing with a divorce inside of your family, whether it's how you teach your kids to be able to save and accumulate money. So Grant and the planning team do a lot to build financial checklist. That's where we deal with those one-off situations where you can ask questions. We have a checklist and we say, hey, here's the things that you need to consider as you go in and make this decision. There every now and then somebody wants to buy an annuity. Well, we don't sell annuities, and that's fine. But if you're going to buy an annuity, here's the questions you should ask. We build them on a sheet. Here's what the person selling it to you needs to be able to answer. And if you're going to buy it, these are the questions that you need to know, right? Those are the things we tend to do on the checklist and where we are. Last but not least is what, Grant?
The legacy plan.
Absolutely. What is that?
So, Joe, this is an interesting topic because a lot of times when families will come into the office, they'll want to discuss, Joe, what do I do with this estate, this life I've built, my investments and property, etc., when I die? How do I pass this along? And it's a very key issue, an element to tackle, but where a lot of families, I think, and especially in our planning, have an aha moment is when we say, that's great, we'll work through that, but who's going to take care of you while you're still here? Because you're a sandwich short of a picnic.
Yeah, the fading away. What happens when you are indeed not with it and don't know you're not with it? Hey, give us a call at 800-928-4001. Go to yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for the Next Steps meeting. And while you're there, sign up for the Market Carver.